I did the thing, guys. I did the thing I said I wasn't gonna do, which is buy more books. Hi, my name is Ingrid and this is Ingrid Reads a Lot. I am going to show you guys all the new books I have acquired. We're going to do a small book haul. It's not a ton of books, but I figured I would show you so that I can stay on track and show you everything I've got. God, this is sticky. You know how when you go to like bookstores, they put stickers, Barnes & Noble, I'm talking to you. And I took the sticker out of one of the books and now it's like sticky and it's driving me nuts. First up we have Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. I am really interested in this book. I know that it has to do with publishing, it has to do with racism and cultural appropriation. The main character steals the manuscript of one of her Asian co-workers or one of her Asian competitors, and because the person has died, and this is the story of what happens following that, and she publishes the book under her name. So I'm curious about this. I keep hearing that it's a book that it's about serious subject, but it doesn't take itself so seriously. So I'm curious about how R.F. Kuang did this. I have read her fantasy novel, Poppy War, and I really enjoyed it. So I want to give this a try. It's like a contemporary fiction. The next book is, I'm not beating myself up about it because it's what I have intended to do, which is only buy books that I have read and enjoyed. And I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager and I decided to pick up a copy because I loved this book tremendously. A tiny little synopsis is that our main character Kit is a home health aide and she has to go take care of Lenora, who is a woman that is now in her 80s but was accused of killing her entire family in 1929, and Kit goes on a quest to figure out what happened back in 1929, and this is set in the 90s. So I loved this. It's probably my favorite Riley Sager book. It's a thriller. It's amazing. And then something else I picked up, which is something I have really, the premise really intrigues me, but it's by an author that I haven't had a lot of luck with. So I'm hoping that this is the book. And it's Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Wow, this is super shiny. This is a horror novel about all I know is that it's about a haunted film and a Nazi cult, and I think it's set in the 50s. I don't know why in my head I feel like it's set in the 50s. No, it's set in the 90s. I don't know why I said 50s. I think like movie and like film, I think of the 50s. I keep doing this because it's so shiny. Next up we have The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. Have seen a lot of things about this book. I think this is sort of like literary fiction, dystopian novel about a society that controls their mothers. And I think this talks about motherhood and how difficult that is and how it's under scrutiny and women are under scrutiny for this. And I've heard really good things. So I picked this up and I want to see if I like it. And then next up, I like the way that the video looks sitting on the floor, but it's very uncomfortable. Not that you care because you guys are just watching it. All right, we have In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune. I read, where is it? The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, this one, and I absolutely fell in love. And so I picked this up. This is about a kind of found family, I believe, and it's sort of sci-fi more than fantasy because it has a robot and they kind of live up in the trees, which makes sense with the cover. But I really liked The House in the Cerulean Sea. I think this book, the premise sounds a lot like it because I think the book that he released after The House in the Cerulean Sea, that was Whispering Door, the premise wasn't something that appealed to me. So I'm hoping that this one will, and I kind of match it, huh? I'm wearing green and this is green. All right, and then next up, I picked this up, which has such a beautiful cover. I don't know why, but I fell in love with this cover. And this is Ripe by Sarah Rose Eder. I think this is sort of like magical realism, dystopian, and literary fiction. This is about a main character that works in the Silicon Valley. I think this book talks a lot about just the culture that surrounds this mentality that we have in the United States of work, work, work. Our main character has also a black hole that follows her everywhere. Certain things that happen and certain things she does make the black hole either get bigger or smaller. Yeah, this just sounds weirdly up my alley. I'm hoping I will enjoy this. I tried during a reading sprint. I tried to start this, but I will say that I wasn't really paying attention. So I'm gonna start it again. I'm hoping I will like this. I'm still optimistic, but we'll see. We'll see. But I really love this cover. It's a pomegranate. And I love pomegranates, but it just looks so pretty. I don't know. All right. And then next up we have The Deep by Nick Cutter. I believe this is a horror. I don't think it's a thriller. Well, thriller horror. It's about a society in which a plague has struck, a plague in which people start forgetting how to do everything, and they find a cure at the bottom of the ocean. And so you're following these people as they're like setting up a mining station in the bottom of the ocean to get this cure. I love books that are set in the ocean, and the reason why I really like those is because I can swim, but I'm sort of petrified by open water. Like, I don't go on boats. I mean, I will, but like I try not to. And the thought of like taking a cruise like in open water like drives me nuts. Like, I don't know how people do that stuff, but yeah, I just have this like intrinsic fear of water, even though I can swim, of open water like the ocean. But yeah, so I think it hikes up that little fear factor for me when things are set in the bottom of the ocean. And then the next two books I have to talk about are nonfiction. This one is called Our Best Behavior, The 7 Deadly Sins, and the Price Women Pay to Be Good by Elise Loehnen. I saw this in my local indie store and I thought it sounded really interesting, and so I decided to pick it up. I read a couple pages to see if I would like it, obviously, and it sounds really interesting of how the Bible influences society and how it influences how women behave intrinsically, and I am really curious about that stuff, so I picked this up. This one is also another feminist book, but that was not on purpose. This is called Femina, A New History of the Middle Ages Through the Women Written Out of It. And basically the synopsis of this book says that certain women were written out of history or struck out of history, and they would write this word next to it, femina, when it was something that they didn't deem appropriate for a woman to do. And that really struck a chord with me because I didn't realize, we think that women's roles have been set in stone since the Middle Ages, and that's not true. There's a lot of things that women did in the Middle Ages that even for modern women it was what we think out of character, but it was okay back then. It's only in the 1700s, 1800s where we have these like very strict women roles in society, and that's what this book talks about. And I think this book, from what I read in the synopsis, gives three different examples of women in the Middle Ages that were struck out of history and we never learned about. So I'm excited and really intrigued about this book because I like history. I'm a nerd for history. All right, and then last two books. I feel like I'm talking super fast, and I promise I did not have any coffee. This is just how I'm feeling today. And then the next two, this one is called Local Women Missing by Mary Kapika. And I have seen this all over social media for months now. I think this came out a while ago. This came out in 2021, and I am curious. I love a good thriller, and I have seen a lot of people say that this is one of their favorite thrillers. The only thing the synopsis says is that this one girl went missing when she was 6 years old, and then 11 years later she comes back, and everybody in the town is like, where the heck were you, and all that stuff. And so that's us figuring out what happened to her, and I'm excited because I love me a good thriller. And since I read, oh my god, I almost dropped everything, and since I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager, I'm kind of in the mood for a good thriller, so that's what we're doing. And then last but certainly not least, we have Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a dystopian sci-fi fiction. I don't know. All I know about this is that, and I'll read you what the book says. It's very small because I hate spending a lot of time reading a synopsis in videos, but all it says, a novel that takes the reader from Vancouver Island in 1912 to a dark colony on the moon 500 years later, unfurling a story of humanity across centuries and space. I'm so curious, like so far apart. I wonder if this is going to tell the story of like different people, and I'm sure it is because it's not going to be the same person, but I'm excited for that because I know that Emily St. John Mandel wrote Station 11, which is a couple of people that I know, Joshana included, said that she really liked that novel, and and it's a sci-fi, and I think it's also a TV show if I'm not mistaken. But this one sounds really interesting, and then if I like this one, then I will pick up Station 11 also, because I think this one is more intriguing to me, the premise anyway. But yeah, that's it. That's all the new books I have acquired recently. And yeah, if you guys are excited, come back. I'm sure I'll buy more books eventually. Let me know in the comments anything you guys have gotten recently. And if you don't want to comment anything, you have nothing to say, just leave an emoji in the comments to say hi, and so that I know that you guys are there and watching. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Goodbye. I can't hold this for too long. Oh, this is gonna fall. Oh no, my shirt's falling. Oh god.